is Crystal Kennedy, and I am currently in my second semester of student teaching at the University of Houston. I am originally from the Bay Area of California, and I moved to Katy, Texas in the 7th grade. My major is teaching and learning, and I will be graduating in May and receiving my certification in EC through 6 generalist. The grade levels that I would prefer to teach would be kindergarten or 1st grade because I enjoy working with this age group. I have observed classrooms in higher elementary grade levels, but I think that working with younger elementary students would be a better fit for me. Currently, I am student teaching in a kindergarten classroom at Franz Elementary in Katy ISD, and I teach all subjects. The subjects that I most prefer teaching are reading and writing, and I feel that these subjects are fundamental and influence student success in all other subjects. So, although my parents are both bilingual, I can only speak English fluently. My dad is half Cuban and Scottish, and his first language was Spanish. My mom is Filipino, and her first language was Tagalog. Growing up, my parents did not really use Spanish or Tagalog to communicate with me. I sometimes joke that my mom only occasionally spoke to me in Tagalog as a child when I was in trouble. So I didn't always have fond memories of that language. Also, I used to be babysat by my aunts and uncles on my mom's side, and their nickname for me as a little kid was the Tagalog word for stinky. So even as a child, I didn't really feel motivated to learn Tagalog. However, I do know a few simple words in Tagalog, but definitely not enough to say full sentences or even carry on a conversation. So, for example, I know that ate means big sister in Tagalog, and that's what I call my older sister, but that's about the extent I know of Tagalog. In high school, we were required to take a foreign language course, and I chose to learn Spanish because my paternal grandmother's English was difficult to understand, and I wanted to communicate with her better. She lived in Cuba up until Castro rose to power, so she had a lot of interesting stories, and I wanted to be able to hear her stories without having to have my dad translate for me. Unfortunately, she passed away while I was in high school, so I never really got the chance to practice speaking Spanish with her. I think that I'm very lucky to have such a mixed background because while I was growing up, I was exposed to different cultures. But I did feel a little bit like an outsider growing up. On both sides of my family, my cousins were bilingual, while my older sister and I only knew how to speak English. It was a little bit difficult trying to connect with some relatives who didn't know how to speak English very well, so that was a little challenging. I took Spanish for 2 years in high school, but I did not really keep up with it and practice using it, so I've forgotten most of it. I can say really small sentences like, ¿Cómo estás? And I know a few other words. When I was taking Spanish in high school, I remember that we did a lot of role-playing exercises, and these were very helpful because you had to practice listening and translating in your head so you could respond in a way that would make sense. I would sometimes try practicing with my dad, and I remember him saying that Cuban Spanish was a little bit different from the Spanish that I was learning. Also, while I was learning Spanish, I learned that there are some words in Spanish that are similar to words in Tagalog. Mostly, though, I remember how challenging it was to learn a new language because I would have to train my brain to translate my sentences in a different order. One thing that was challenging for me was remembering to say the noun before the adjective in Spanish because in English it is the opposite. You say the adjective first and then the noun. So I would say that I can understand Spanish a little bit better than Tagalog, but I still don't know very much. I've visited different countries before, such as Italy and Germany and Scotland, but I did not use any Spanish or Tagalog in these countries. While I was visiting these countries, I would try practicing small phrases such as thank you or hello. But overall, I truly respect people who are multilingual. I think that being able to speak more than one language is very beneficial because you can connect to people more and you're strengthening your brain's memory. So that's a little bit about me and my experiences learning different languages.